Okay. So, hi Akshat. Thank you for making your time, taking your time out today and doing this interview with us. First of all, a big congratulations on your 740. I'm sure it feels good, but tell me, how does it feel? How did it feel when you saw that
Uh,
740 on the screen?
yeah, so hi Rashmi, thank you so much for having me. It is indeed an honor for me to, come back and be on the same portal that I've gained so much from. So to answer your question, it was definitely something which gave me a lot of internal satisfaction. I mean, I didn't jump for joy or anything, but I still remember having given the first GMAT and having scored just to 650, which I personally felt, and I knew that it's a lot beneath what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
So when the second GMAT exam, the kind that the loading thing kind of
Uh-huh.
unwind, and the score that came out to be was 740. I just like breathed the sigh of relief that
Mm-hmm.
you know I've at least got somewhere, because even then I wasn't sure how good 740 was.
Uh-huh.
But what I did know is that there's a very good chance I don't have to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I like the process, I'm not just liked, as much as I love the process of preparing for the exam and also appearing for the exam, it just was something that I wanted to move on from, because a lot of things, like, I was as late as October.
Mm-hmm.
So round one was mostly gone for me for most of the schools. So it was really important for me to be able to get a good score this time around so that I can at least
Mm-hmm.
be in time for the round two. So
Yeah.
it was definitely a very satisfying experience
Mm.
and a very satisfying day for me. The day I scored a 740. So
Yeah. I'm sure, 740 is the top 3 percentile of the, where top 3 percentile of the test takers get to. So I'm sure it must not have been easy, right? So let us talk about it. Let's start at the beginning. As in, if you could tell us a bit about your background and when did you decide to take GMAT, and, you know, um, how did you, start preparing for it?
okay, so a little bit of myself. What As of now, I am not working. As of now, I've decided to take a break
Mm-hmm.
and really focus on my applications. Prior to what I did is I was engaged with the Indian Airforce. I was
Nice.
serving as a military officer,
Mm-hmm.
and that is towards I mean, it's not something that you often think about. I wanted to always have an education abroad,
Mm-hmm.
but because of however things just panned out, I found myself in the military.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got that scope and a window of actually pursuing something that I'd wanted to do for a long time, I decided that this is it for me. So I think around May,
Mm-hmm.
I started researching if, what are the prospects for me to get an education abroad to do my MBA from somewhere in US or Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And that is when I started honestly thinking about the exam and about, the entire process. So now there's tons of material available for anybody who would want to prepare for this exam.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the but I don't know, I was lucky or was it fate or whatever. But the most basic thing anybody would do is do a Google search of GMAT study material or something like that. And the first thing that popped up was the e-GMAT link.
Mm-hmm.
So it just was something that, okay, this sounds good, this looks good, so I'll just go ahead and see what they're all about.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remembered, then this is something that I really respect you and your entire team and your entire company for, is that you give us all a chance to actually try your product. You you are out there. Of course, everybody's out there to sell and to really profit from things, but your approach towards it is really humane. So even now, I do keep getting emails telling that there's a free CR session or there's a free SC
Mm-hmm.
session, and the best that there's a free strategy session,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
because GMAT is not about studying. It's not about mugging things up, or it's not about getting the formulas right.
Mm-hmm.
It's about understanding the exam in the first place, and it's about appreciating what it's trying to test.
Very
So when I did a few uh, the free courses or the free sessions
true. Mm-hmm.
with e-GMAT, that's when I started to realize that first of all, I needed to work at it, I mean, it's not just something that, I can say, oh, I'm good at math and I'm good at English, so I can just do it anyway. It really requires, an approach to it, which it's always better if somebody can guide you to it. So that is what e-GMAT was for me. And the rest is, the rest is all history then.
Yeah. So you took the trial version, right? You took the 7-day trial period and you went through the material that was there.
I did.
Yeah.
Yes. So first, when I created my account in the portal, so as many things that I could experiment with, and that's to do with the mock test, the first analytical test that really puts things in perspective for you. So, well, I had given a lot of mocks. I mean, a lot of test mocks while I was parallelly giving the e-GMAT mock. So, it is not always good to score a 700 on your first mock when you've not prepared. It says something is wrong. Something is not how it should be. But when something gives you a 630 and
so that was your first mock score.
That was my first mock score with e-GMAT. So when you get a 630, you wonder, where the gaps are, because one test tells you 700 and the other tells you 630. It can't book. They both can't be right? Yeah. So I, if at all, I must be falling somewhere in the spectrum of a 650 or a 660, which actually happened to be the case. When I actually did appear for the exam, I could only score a 650. So there was a lot of learning. There was a lot of understanding of where I was with the whole process. And really, I mean, e-GMAT was, for me, it was the only resource that I looked into, other than, of course, wonderful. The official mocks. So
that's great. So I think if I remember right, your 630 mock had a split of V33 and a Q43, right?
Yeah, somewhere around that.
Yeah. So from there to a 740 is a huge transformation. Not only is it 110-point improvement, but a 9-point improvement in verbal and a 5-point improvement in quant, right?
Yeah.
A 6-point rather. So that is something, as you said, history. This is what dreams are made of, Congratulations again. So
thank you so much.
So if you could just tell us about how you went about preparing, because you do mention that you did take a test in the middle in which you scored a 650. So if you could just describe the journey as to how did you prepare, and when you took the first test, how was that experience? And
e-GMAT online focused package is what I believe. So I had access to tons of material, the entire course, and it came bundled with a few GMAT club tests as well, which incidentally I never ended up using. So that is also something I must mention. So I have some very specific pointers for both quant, verbal, and the exam as a whole. So to start with quant, anybody who's good at university maths or general, not even university maths, I would only say that about high school grade math, would be able to solve the question. But solving the question is not the only thing that is required, right? I mean, solving the question is maybe, a third part of it. Then to have the wisdom to go back and look at the question again and to really figure out if you have factored in all the parameters and variables that the question had posed is the second, the two-third part of it. And the final part of it is if you are able to understand the question itself. And that is really important. Why? Because of all the minute tricks that the GMAT questions tend to pose. So when I started with e-GMAT, how did I improve on my quant score was not because I got to know some new formulas. No. How I did is because it taught me a very amazing strategy of breaking the question down. There's something known as process skills, and I can just go on talking about process skills because it's something so basic, but it's also something that we don't really follow or apply as a second nature. But that is what I gained from my quant exposure from e-GMAT. So there are 6 basic process skills which tell you like infer, interpret, manipulate, translate, and
Yes.
one is factoring constraints.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very, very methodical approach. And the best part is that you have no option but to learn them, because there are like, I don't even know how many questions there are. There are more than like about 1,000 questions that we practice as part of the e-GMAT course.
Yes.
And with every single question that the instructor solves, they just keep iterating on it. So you can also after a while you can just repeat those process skills in your sleep as well. So when you practice that much, and when you practice that consistently, and when you practice with the same basic set of guidelines,
Mm-hmm.
So when you are actually appearing for the exam after having done all of those questions, you implement them and you don't even realize it.
It comes
So
intuitive to you, right? You're doing it
yes,
at a
it
subconscious
becomes
level.
a very, very reflexive thing, because
Yeah.
uh, that is the only way you've learned how to solve the questions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And one important factor is, as the more you practice and the more e-GMAT makes you practice, your time thing also comes very much within your own control. So just to get the question right is not the aim. To get the question right, to get it right within the time frame, and to be able to get to the answer that e-GMAT wants, that the GMAT test wants you to get to, that is all what is very, very essential to be able to get from a 43 to a 49. And that is how I have been able to improve my score. So that's about Quant.
So here, just sorry to interrupt. What comes across as you were speaking is also that I think you spent a lot of time reviewing also. It was not just solving questions, because you mentioned you went through the solutions at the end of the question and
I did.
learned from that. So that for me is super essential, right? It's not just enough to solve.
Undoubtedly.
Equally important to see how well you've solved, or what are the mistakes you're making, what are the things that you need to improve upon. So I think that is something I feel you did quite a bit.
Yes, you're absolutely right over there. As you would also be able to read on the review whenever it gets hosted online. So when the thing about GMAT is you can never be too sure. You need to always remember that there are enough tricks in the world to make you falter on a question. So you may have got the answer right once or twice or even the 10th time, but unless with an online course, the thing is that there's nobody who's sitting and seeing how you've worked out a problem. But the advantage also is that you can always go back and review the solution, and the solution would have been worked out in the best way that there possibly is. So that's why this is also something that e-GMAT told me within the course itself, that dude, you've got the answer right, but please look at the solution, see how we've done it, because you may have taken an approach which took you 5 seconds more, or you may have trailed off in a direction which has lost you 5 seconds somewhere else. So reviewing the solutions is even more important when you've got the answer right, because when you've got it wrong, you will definitely be looking at it. But when you've got it right, it is even more essential to see if you have worked out a parallel approach and you have been able to do it in the kind of time that it is expected for anyone to take that time with that question, which is again another feature with the e-GMAT. It always shows that one slider at the top as time took by you, time took by the person who's got it wrong, time took by the person who got it right, and the average time. So it really helps. I mean, these are subtle things, very subtle things, but they mean a lot and they go a long way.
Yeah, and they help you improve from a 630 to a 740. I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So yes, sorry for interrupting you. You were talking about verbal before I.
But before we jump to verbal, I think I want to talk about pace. So
yes,
pace is again a very, very amazing feature of the course, because we are all at different levels in terms of our appreciation of math and quant. So what pace basically is about, it gives you a couple of diagnostic tests and see where you are at that present time in terms of the concepts. Because initially, if your concepts are not strong, then there's no point moving forward with the course and, jumping onto the harder stuff. So to get the foundations right, for somebody like me who did remember my concepts from 10th standard and 11th standard. So for me, I was able to save 22 hours of coursework just because of pace. So I never had to repeat those classes, which I already knew about. And that's really helpful because in the absence of such a tool, I would always, I would not know what to skip and what to do. So I would at least would have not, I would have gone through some part of it, if not all. And definitely, every minute counts. So that way, pace was something that really helped me rush through things I knew and focus on things I really need to focus on. So that's pace.
Yeah, 22 hours is quite a bit, right?
It is, definitely.
Yeah. So tell me, you never had to go back, and even when you're solving the questions, you didn't feel that the files that you missed going through had any bearing on your thing. They were actually your strong areas, and that is why PACE suggested that you skip them.
Yes, but one thing with PACE is that do not try to outmaneuver it. When you give the diagnostic, be honest to yourself. Don't try to guess there. If you get the answer right, now it's just an AI tool, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it will never come back and ask you, did you get the question right because you knew it? If you're taking a lot of guesses and you're, in that particular diagnostic, then PACE will make you skip something that you didn't know.
So you need to be
true. With one of the
true.
geometry, yes. So this happened with me personally. That's why I can talk about it. With one of the geometry courses, I took a very intelligible and, I thought I knew the formula, so I just worked it out and I got the answer right. But then I realized that, no, I have not done this right. I need to be absolutely sure about the formula because this question can very well be on my actual test. So I can't be uncertain then. PACE could make you. PACE is going to take that diagnosis, that particular diagnostic test as its reference, and it is going to create a work plan for you. So when you're giving that test, you need to be sure that the answers that you are marking correct, you are very, very certain of it, because that is going to be taken as reference to calculate what you need to do and what you do.
True.
So that's
if you're in doubt, maybe go with the least likely answer so that you get to go through those files.
At the end of the day, it is all about you sitting with your course and you preparing for an exam, which you have to only, the score is going to define almost everything of going further ahead.
Very true.
So that's what.
So you did your quant first and then you moved to verbal, is it, when you started preparing?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Yes. So how did the verbal preparation go? Because, if you're starting at a 33, I'm sure there are a lot of conceptual issues, application issues that you had to, learn, overcome to build that ability to get to that 40 plus kind of a score.
Yes, that is, again, that you're absolutely right over there. So my weak areas within verbal, my CR was terrible. My CR was just terrible. My RC was good, but my sentence correction was very, very volatile. It would be good in one test and it would not be good in the other. So I'll talk about both CR and SCO for now, and if you have any questions about the reading comprehension, I'll sure be more than be happy. So I had the biggest trouble understanding what GMAT meant when it said assumption. So I just had a very different definition of assumption in my head, and it really took, let me be very, very, very honest with you, it took me a lot of work to understand assumption from the point of view of how GMAT wants me to understand it. And all thanks to e-GMAT. Hands down, there is no doubt about it, because there's a very anybody who's in the process of preparing, I mean, it is important for the person to have at least seen a couple of questions of CR to be able to understand what I'm saying. But CR is definitely, I loved, after a while, of course, initially I didn't, but after having understood what it meant and what it wanted from me, I loved the CR part of the test. It's really, it just makes you think. And I think that is the beauty of GMAT. Even with Quant, it makes you think, and with Verbal, it definitely does make you think. So now, this is where this is the entire reason why we're sitting here, because I wanted to reach out to Payal ma'am specifically and thank her, because it is a task, to get assumptions question right. I mean, personally, for me it was, maybe for somebody it might not be, but critical reasoning is something that needs to be internalized, and it can only happen when you are really breaking the concept down in a way that the student is able to understand. So that is what I gained from the e-GMAT course, that over starting with very simple examples to moving on to slightly hard problems, to moving to even slightly harder ones, and then moving on to the the tougher ones. That is very important, building up a foundation which sticks. Because why is it important that for the foundation to stick is because the time is very limited. When you're approaching a question on the verbal section, or any section for that matter, at the end of the day, we are preparing for an exam that is both adaptive and it is, let's just say that it is short in time. 2 minutes or less than 2 minutes, 1 minute 40 seconds for a math question, and for a verbal question, and just about 2 minutes for a quant question. These these are very precious seconds, and we cannot be roaming around and in our minds trying to understand the problem on that day when we're preparing for the exam. So all of these things need to be cemented in the head. So that is what critical reasoning practice questions, and that is what the concept files really did for me. So going over it again and again and again, and in such excruciating detail, like, I mean, there are about 2 modules on, I believe, on assumption, then it goes on to weakened question and strengthened question, boldface question, and then so many different variety of questions that are asked on the exam. But at the end of the day, the foundation remains as the first few concept files of assumption. So critical reasoning seems daunting, but if you understand the logic, it becomes a joy to do those questions. Because I still remember when I was going to appear for my GMAT the second time, that is when I decided to do each and every question of the official guide. And I could find references. I mean, I could find the solutions with e-GMAT wherever I got that question wrong. But I was very happy that I got about 90% of those questions right. And that is only because I needed to start from 33 verbal, where if you would go through my mock, you would see that most of the question that I got wrong was from critical reasoning.
Yes, I could see that. So you must have gotten to a 90 plus percentile ability in CR, starting at around a 35 percentile ability. Yes. So that's a tremendous improvement.
Yes,
I'm sure you used the pre-thinking to tackle
how did I not mention pre-thinking? Yes. So that is where you save all the time. Absolutely. It's just pre-thinking. Pre-thinking is this beautiful thing which, while you're reading, things are coming in your head. Like while you're reading the math questions, you're isolating parts of it. Like, this is the constraint I have to remember, and this is the condition that needs to be imposed on the final answer. So similar to that with the verbal CR pre-thinking, it's about what is it that this person is saying and still not saying it, and it's just implicitly assumed that. So when we work with I'm a science student, so when it says assumption is that something that is assumed exclusive of the situation, whereas assumption for GMAT is something that is assumed within that particular. So to really, this is what e-GMAT has taught me, and I still remember it. and I can still go ahead after having been about 2 months since the last question I did of GMAT test. Even if you still give me a CR question, I'm sure I will be able to understand and even explain it, because that is how well I've been taught.
And I
So
think that
we,
also tells about how much diligently you, put in your efforts to build your foundation, then cement the ability. Because, when you put in that effort, then the ability stays. It is not like it's going to vanish off, right?
yeah, that is true. But again, the number of questions that are there, I have not gone. I'm telling you, I've not gone over and beyond anything that e-GMAT has taught me.
Mm-hmm.
The material itself is so vast and it is so expansive that
Mm-hmm.
just doing that will get you the concepts right.
Mm-hmm.
You can always go ahead and, I mean, anybody who's preparing for it can always go ahead and refer to other material in terms of practice questions. But in terms of the concepts and the foundations, this is all that you're going to need.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So even with Quant, there were so many concepts, and the best part is the consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Every question is solved in that way only.
Yes.
So you need to pick up approach. At the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, GMAT is about whatever works best for you,
Mm-hmm.
right? e-GMAT worked best for me, so I can talk about it, and I can tell you that doing solving every kind of a question, and each question in the way, in a similar and the same way,
Mm-hmm.
really 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 puts thing in your head and gives you an approach to every question,
Mm-hmm.
which
Mm-hmm.
again at the end of the day it is all about saving time, and which it does.
Yes. Yes. I think building the ability while in that timed environment is what helps you get there. Right. So you've solved quite a few questions on Scholaranium also. So what would be your take on the quality of the questions and how close they are to GMAT questions in terms of either the structure or the difficulty, any of this?
So Scholaranium is like for who don't know, it's the next step to moving to the preparation with e-GMAT after you've done the basic modules and the
Yes.
concept
That is
side.
the question
And
bank essentially once
yes,
you've
it's the
built your
question.
foundation to
Yes.
master your application.
So now Scholarium is again a beautiful tool because it lets you custom design your own test. So you can pick up the concepts that you feel you're weak in, and time yourself and decide whether you want to time yourself, decide whether you want to parallelly get the solutions. So it's a very, very, very customizable approach to preparing for the exam. I took a lot of, I had developed a fair bit of confidence in both my modules and both the, exam sections. So I decided to opt for the high, medium, and the high questions. And for me, Scholarium really helped. Why? Because I had timing issues.
Mm-hmm.
So that is that is the reason. One of the reasons why I scored really low on my first attempt is because of my timing issues.
Mm-hmm.
So Scholarium helped me build that kind of confidence that I can tackle harder problems within the same time. So I should be able to tackle a mix of all three with whatever time GMAT gives me.
Mm-hmm.
So Scholarium is basically a huge bank of questions. But like I said, this feature is something that you will find a lot of places. But the important thing is the cementing that you do post having appeared for post having done these questions. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a big error log file that you anybody it's basically a personal choice, I would say, because see it GMAT it demands a lot of commitment. There is no doubt about it. If you have to improve your score, if you're already at a good score, or if you're already at the score that you want to target, that's good. I mean, you can just practice and go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
But to a very, very, very large extent, if you want to improve a good score, which is, let's say, if you're already getting a 680 or a 700 and you want to go to a 740 or a 750 or a 760, it requires a lot of focused work. It requires for you to understand the exact areas that you were losing out on. So populating the error log files is the way that e-GMAT has come up with to help us with that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is what I use not for my verbal but for my Quant. And that
Mm-hmm.
is where it told me that my biggest problem was that I was not, referring back to the question after I had got the answer. Why is that important? To rule out, the constraints. Whatever things need to be removed, like a simple equation in which x could be anything greater than 0. Whether to include a 0 or not is something that will be very subtly mentioned within the question. So there will be an option x greater than 0, or there will be an option x greater than or equal to 0. So, you can get very excited that I got the answer, but then did you really get the answer? So that is what the error log files taught me, and what Scholarium helped me with is with my time issues. So there are very, very focused areas in the entire course that you can utilize to your advantage to rule out whatever wherever you're failing on the test. So.
And in terms of the difficulty level of the questions or the quality, as I asked, did you find them at par with?
I'm not even going to talk too much about it, because it's hands down. It's just e-GMAT knows what it is doing, and it's been doing whatever it is doing really well. So the questions are at par. The quality is just good. I mean, quality is just great, and it knows how to get. You just need to utilize those tools, because the tools are all available to the student.
So Akshat, all this efforts put in, unfortunately the first test didn't go too well, right? You got a 650. Of course there are issues. You told me you took it in the night.
I'll tell you a few things about the exam, like we've already discussed. So what I can tell anybody who's planning to appear for the exam, a few pointers from me, if
Sure.
I may. So don't try to tweak your schedule. I mean, I thought that my internet would be least the bandwidth will be available all to me in the middle of the night, and there'll be least disturbance around my area. So I did all of that thinking at my own end and decided that, I need to start my exam at 11. But starting an exam at 11 p.m. would mean that by the time you actually sit and start the exam, it'll be about 11:45. And the exam is like long, it's long. It went on till some 3:30 in the morning for me. And
you require that 100% focus all the time, right? You can't just let go.
I mean, if see, again, with me, again, another mistake that I did is I relied on the practice, the free mock test that anybody gets with creating an account with MB.com, the mock 1 and mock 2. They are by no, I mean, I will just go out and say it, that they are not at all what the exam is like. They are just there to maybe give you a taste of it, but a very, very subtle taste of it. Please do, to get an accurate and a correct assessment of your own capability, 3, 4, 5, 6 is a must. It's not even recommended, it's just a must. And that is what I did. The second time I appeared for my mock 3, 4, 5, 6, I went back and referred to my concepts on e-GMAT wherever I felt I was going wrong. And they are very, very accurate. Like I scored a 740 on 2 of them. I scored a 750 on 1, and then on the last exam that I gave, I got a 720. But then I said, this is too late now, let's just go ahead and get the exam. So that was, I think, just 2 days before my actual test. So the first point, like I said, is so the second thing that happened with me that went wrong on the first exam is that the first question in Quant itself was on a slightly higher level. And that just completely threw me off my game, and I'm like, oh god, if this is the first question, the test is going to be tough. The test is going to really, I don't think I'm prepared for this. So that is one thing that you should never let happen to you, and that is one thing I didn't let happen to me the second time. The test is adaptive, and the test is very intelligent. And the test may ask you questions a little here and there, but it'll just tweak itself to it. And you will get the score. You will get the score. You just have to remember and believe in it. And so that's one. Do not meddle with the schedule. Number 2, have the confidence while you are appearing for the exam. And very importantly, number 3, you must have something to eat, like a small tidbit or something. It is exhaustive. Your mind will be working in an overdrive. The break is important. Do not underestimate the importance of that break or that one cookie that you will eat within that break. So the test is good, the test is fun, and it can be fun if you don't stress over it. And you will definitely score a lot higher if you are, if you're relaxed when you're taking it. Because being that stressed and being that worked up for that longer duration, it's just not going to help. So these are the three things that. So the second time when I gave the exam after having done the 4 marks, I gave it at 11. I started at 11 a.m. this time.
Okay.
And I was done by around lunchtime. I had kept a small packet of some cookies with me, and I just did not let the hard questions throw me off my game. So it's okay even if I get it wrong. It's going to figure itself out. It's supposed to be one of the best exams in the world. So it's not, and I'm not that, I'm good. I'm not that bad.
You did put in a lot of efforts. You are good, and then over and above that, the efforts that you put in to
I don't know if I'm good or not, but what I'm saying is that I had to keep telling that to myself while I was at the exam, because I couldn't let my confidence go down.
Of course.
That just makes everything terrible. You may not be good, but if you are not even telling yourself that you're good, then it's just, you're in a very bad space then, at least on the test day. So no matter what your previous performance has been, the day that you're actually appearing for the exam, just tell yourself that you're going to do a good job.
Yeah.
That's very important.
And as they say, proof is in the pudding. So you have the score to prove that. And I would say all is well that ends well, right?
Yes. True.
So Akshat, you've already given us some pointers as to how do you manage yourself on the test date and what are the pitfalls that you need to avoid. But if overall you have to give the other GMAT aspirants out there some tips as to how do you prepare and how do you, focus, what do you focus on towards the run up to the test, that should be great, because you've been there, done that, and I'm sure you have wonderful tips to share.
So one thing that I would like to tell anyone who is even thinking about the exam is that the exam, please respect the exam. Do not try to don't try to think that you can fool it, or you can, it's a very structured exam. It tests some very basic and some very important things that we as Indians probably don't appreciate. The test is about thinking. The test is about being present. The test is not about memorizing anything. Test is about understanding the question. And when I say understanding the question, it means each and every part of the exam. All of those, 61 plus 65, plus the RC, the integrated reasoning question, and even to that extent the analytical writing, assessment. They're all just tools to make you think, and they're all just tools to see how well you can think and how present you are while you are giving the exam. So this is again not something that I know. This is something that has been taught to me. So the first thing I suggest anyone is to whenever the next strategy session is planned by Rajat sir, it's something that it's an eye-opener. It tells you about the exam, what it is, what to expect, and how to approach it. It's very important to know how to approach for the GMAT exam, because it's not like a regular test. It's not testing your derivations or your theoretical knowledge, or some very, very fancy formulas. Basic maths, basic English, basic grammar, and that is what it is all about. So keep taking mock tests. That is important to keep getting an idea of where you are going. And because everyone has a tendency to hoard the mocks till the end. I'll give them just before the exam. But like I said, this is not about getting the answer right. It is just not about that. It's about your timing, it's about your endurance. Very important. It's about that capacity to sit for that long and to still be able to focus.
Mm-hmm.
So mocks are a very, very healthy way to um, keep getting a good assessment of where you are with your preparation. So that is another thing I would like to add to the
Mm-hmm.
preparation part of it.
Okay. So great, Akshat. Thank you so much. It's quite inspiring how you made it happen. You didn't take too long to do that too. And before I just end the call, want to tell you how thankful we are for all the service that you put into it, to the country, being a part of the military, and really glad that we could help you in whatever way get to this target score. And I hope all the very best for your future, and I hope you get into your dream school. And let us know. So all the very best.
Thank you again from my side, Surya and I. It was very fantastic and a very, very to help me in my first step and to help me in a very, very, let's be, very, very upfront. We might hit the time the entire target. So thank you for helping me get there, and I really hope that I can come back to you another day and share all of the skills I've admitted to. And again, thanks for helping me in this journey. I mean, it has been
Sure.
just the most joyous experience going through the course and also working for the exam and also giving the exam, which I'm sure it's only because of the preparation I could do with you all. So thank you.
Thank you.